Eagles week is officially upon us. And that means Tuesday afternoon, I've got my guy Ryan with me, but we have a very, very special guest. He won't be here for a long time, but he will be here for a good time. We've got an Eagles insider that is going to join us, and he's going to join us next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And as I said, it's the Tuesday edition of my show with Ryan. Ryan, it's been a while. How you been, man?
Good, man. Very cold, but good. I got to get this dang electricity fixed out here so I can plug in my heater. It's like 39 degrees right now. I'm toughing it out for the people. I'm sacrificing for the viewers today. But I feel good, man. Glad to be here.
You need like an old school 49er starter jacket or something. I can't relate. I live in Tampa. It's very warm here most of the year. So I would like to say I feel bad for you, but I don't. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. Appreciate that, Jesse. Very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Listen, I'm a very, very caring person, Ryan.
You are.
All right, man. Let's get into it. It is Eagles week, and I've got my traditional Behind Enemy Lines show that I'm still going to do tomorrow with another Eagles content creator, but I reached out to many because I wanted to get more than just one perspective. And this gentleman in particular that I'm about to bring on, the reason that I think he's a key cog to this whole thing is because he actually covered the 49ers as well. Anybody who is subscribed to Chat Sports knows this face that I'm about to bring on. Before Chase was around, it was one Thomas Mott actually that covered the San Francisco 49ers for Chat Sports. However, he's got his own channel and he's actually an Eagles fan. So he knows both of these teams very, very well. Very excited to have him on. We'll bring him in now. Thomas, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, come on. This is going to be a bunch of fun watching the team I used to cover take on the team that I truly do love and now cover on my own channel in Philadelphia.
You're doing a fantastic job over there, by the way. Watch that channel grow. I saw when you started it. It's maybe been a year since you've been running it. You're up to like 25,000 subscribers. Absolutely fantastic job. Great work, man. Very good work.
I appreciate that. It's been fun. Yeah, right about a year. And as you guys know, with the 49ers, it helps when your team is good and relevant. So I definitely can't complain about that.
Yeah, most certainly. Well, let's get into the game because I know you're not here for long, but there are some questions that we have, and it may be too early for this question, Thomas, but maybe you've heard some things. The Eagles had a ton of injuries either going into the game or leaving that game from big name players. They were down like 6 starters by the time that game had ended against Buffalo. Great game to watch. Definitely, if you haven't seen it, go back and check that one out. But they left that game very, very injured. And this is a big matchup. Do you have any inside information or just any thoughts about what is going to happen with these injuries? Who you think is going to play, who you think won't play for sure? Just any information you have would be nice at this point in the week.
I think Philadelphia dodged a couple of bullets. There was at one point where their star rookie pass rusher Jalen Carter went down with a back injury, and that was something that kept him out of a game earlier this year. But he finished the game, and so we haven't gotten a full update on that as of this morning, but he should play. Fletcher Cox went down with a hamstring injury, but didn't finish the game, and yet it seems like they aren't too worried about it. The big one, though, was linebacker Zach Cunningham. If Philadelphia has one call it weakness there on defense. I mean, the secondary has been up and down, but linebacker's been kind of a struggle, and they finally figured it out with Nicholas Morrow, who they signed this offseason, and Zach Cunningham, who they signed halfway through training camp. And Cunningham's been a great open field tackler, a great run stopper, and he left the game and didn't return with some sort of probably severe hamstring injury. Now, Nick Sirianni said today that they're going to go ahead and get him an MRI. We're waiting on that full update, but as of right now, he doesn't play. You're looking at the third string linebacker, Christian Ellis, who all Eagle fans know is not starting caliber linebacker. He was, thrust into the Bills game towards the end and had a couple of good plays, a couple of bad plays. But Philadelphia is also trying to sign Shaq Leonard right now. He's meeting with Dallas as we speak, and then we'll hopefully go to Philadelphia later on this week. And so the big one is Zach Cunningham. If he can't go, that linebacker spot is going to be something I'm a little concerned about for Philadelphia.
We're going to get to Shaq Leonard in a second. I'm glad that you transitioned into there beautifully because I do have a question about him. But Lane Johnson, you think that he's going to go? That was an interesting one because I know
Yeah,
that he had the abdominal injury last year that he played through, which obviously connects to the groin area.
right.
And so he played through that, ended up having off-season surgery, if I'm not mistaken,
Mhm.
and then has been fine all year. But Friday felt a little bit of a twinge. Sunday woke up, had an MRI. They decided to sit him. You think he's a go?
Yeah, after the MRI, there were multiple reports that came out and said there was a little bit of inflammation, and the wet field kind of made them hesitate a little bit because,
Mm.
as you mentioned, with the groin injury, one false step, one little extra move left or right, and the strain could go ahead and come back. And it was just a strange situation because he was, like you said, fine all week. This is something that where he woke up on Friday morning and went, "Wait a second, we're a little bit sore here. Let's get it checked out." He went through the full walkthrough pregame. If this would have been a playoff game, this would have been maybe Dallas week in the division when you have to win. He probably goes out there and plays, but all reports have suggested that he's going to go ahead and give it a go this week, barring some sort of major setback. Again, Philly won't release their first injury report until tomorrow during their Wednesday
Yeah.
walkthrough, so we're waiting to hear on that. But I am very confident that he's going to go ahead and be just fine. It really felt like the weather was the big factor in making sure that he did slip and slide and make something worse. So all the injuries are definitely something to keep an eye on, but I would say Philadelphia is going to be as close to full strength as they've been all year heading into the Niner game.
Yeah, that's good news for Philadelphia. Lane, it might also rain this weekend, so I'm curious to see if that'll
Yeah,
factor into things. So we'll see. But you talked about one Shaq Leonard, and Shaq Leonard, I know, was a superstar linebacker. He was up for contract, if you remember, at the same time as Fred Warner, and it was
right.
like, okay, who's going to get paid first? What's going to happen there? Shaq Leonard maybe has declined a bit, but he's still under the age of 30. Still, I think, can be productive in the right system. He's meeting with the rival Dallas Cowboys today and then supposedly is meeting with the Eagles tomorrow. I got to be honest, when you guys released Barnett, I said Shaq Leonard is going to be
Right.
an Eagle. It's happening. This is the reason they're releasing Barnett. It hasn't happened yet. Do you think that's a move that they should make, and do you think that's a move they will make?
I think that it was a little bit less likely, a couple days ago, but with Zach Cunningham going down with, and hamstrings are weird, right? They can
Hmm.
be, a 1 game thing. They can be a 10 game thing, depending on how tight they stay and if you can't get loose. It feels like it's kind of now or never for Shaq Leonard. The problem is, as you mentioned, he's meeting with Dallas right now, and Dallas has a needed linebacker because they lost Leighton Vander Esch, and Dallas knows Philadelphia needs a linebacker. And Dallas plays Philadelphia after we play the 49ers. And so I'd be very surprised if he leaves Dallas with or without any sort of contract offer. I know Dallas is going to try to go ahead and sign him, but he does have a really strong connection with Nick Sirianni. We forget that Sirianni was the OC in Indy back in 2018, kind of when Shaq Leonard was at the peak of his powers, a 3-time All-Pro, and they developed a very strong relationship despite the fact that one was on the offense, one was on the defense. And Nick Sirianni said yesterday he stayed in contact with Shaq Leonard and has stayed good friends with him. And so if there ever was a scenario where Philadelphia would have kind of an inside edge to one of these midseason free agents, it feels like Leonard would be the guy. And with the Eagles having plenty of cap space and Leonard still getting paid by the Colts, it feels like if you just give him a little bit more than Dallas would have to offer and offer him more playing time as well, it kind of makes more sense for him to come to Philadelphia and ring chase with an Eagles team that already has a winning at the Dallas Cowboys. That's seemingly going to be the 1 seed if they beat the 49ers this weekend, and give Leonard his best chance to go ahead and get a ring. But I guess Dallas could say, hey, we'll give you whatever Philly offers plus more, and you can come be a Dallas Cowboy because they liked him in the pre-draft, and he could stay with the Dallas Cowboys. But I think with the Zach Cunningham injury, it's kind of now or never for Leonard. And you guys know this with San Francisco, especially with the Alls GM. When you have a team that's like really has a chance to win a Super Bowl, because there are all these
Yeah.
teams that might have a chance. Denver might have a chance, but in reality, Denver's not winning the AFC, right? But the Niners have a chance. The Eagles have a chance, and maybe the Dallas Cowboys. If you have an injury midseason that could derail the entire year, you've got to do everything possible, whether it's getting backups ready to play or signing somebody in free agency to make sure that linebacker in the Eagles case is not the reason that they don't win a Super Bowl this year, or at least not the reason they don't make it to a Super Bowl this year. And Howie's been very aggressive. He did it last season, signing 2 defensive tackles in the middle of the year. I think if he can leave Dallas, which is a big if today, Philadelphia makes a lot of sense later on this week.
Thomas, I kind of have like a two-part question. I'm freestyling a little
Yeah.
bit here, Jess, but it did occur to me. I was looking at the numbers for the Eagles. Eagles, surprisingly, they're 10-1, but
Mhm.
they are 31st in touchdowns given up,
Yeah.
passing touchdowns given up. I'm curious as to what you attribute that to, and then also on the other side of it, how do you see the Eagles attacking the 49ers defense. What do you think the weaknesses are in the 49ers defense? How will the Eagles attack?
Well, starting with the first part, Philadelphia signed two new coordinators this offseason because they lost both of the other ones to be head coaches. And they bring in Sean Desai to the defense, and they bring in Brian Johnson to the offense. And they've been under a massive microscope in Philadelphia. I mean, I feel like I talk about either Sean Desai or Brian Johnson every single day on my show, on my YouTube channel. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's bad. And the good thing about the two of them is that they've done really well with halftime adjustments. Philadelphia, if you watch all of their games this year, and the ones they've struggled early, they've played great late. And they did it again against the Buffalo Bills, where the offense struggled, defense got worked a little bit. They got a little lucky in a couple of missed field goals by the Buffalo Bills. Second half, though, offensively, they look great, and defensively, they got enough stops to go ahead and win the game. But there still are issues. And honestly, one of the big things that surprised me with this Eagles defense, and why I continue to worry about not only the Chiefs, the Bills, obviously the Niners next, and then the Cowboys, is the Eagles pass rush. It was dominant last year. Like think back to the NFC title game. What was the big thing the Niner fans, and I'm sure you guys talked about all week long heading into that? It was, can the Niner offensive line slow down Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat and keep Brock Purdy healthy? And in the end, they weren't able to. I mean, the Eagle pass rush was getting hands on everybody that they played. And this year, sacks would tell you they're still very, very good at rushing the passer, but the eye test says it a little bit differently. I feel like they just aren't disrupting throwers as much as they had been last year. And it's really given the secondary, which is good, but not great, not as much time to go ahead and make plays. They're having to hold on longer, especially in coverage. And Darius Slay is not, 5 years ago, Darius Slay. And James Bradbury is having a nice year, but he's not an all-pro. And Kevin Byard is good since being traded, but he's not the all-pro that he was. And I think Reed Blankenship has a lot of potential, but he's still very young. And this secondary just can't hang on as long. And so I think that for whatever reason, they are struggling early, making good adjustments, but it's continuing to be a bend but don't break defense. And the big thing for an opposing team playing against the Philadelphia Eagles is you have to get a lead, which is obvious. You just got to be able to hang on to that lead. And that seems to be the flip side of your question in terms of Philadelphia attacking this Niner defense. The Eagles, for whatever reason, have been anemic the first couple of quarters, the past couple of weeks. They could not move the ball against the Chiefs. They could not move the ball. I mean, besides one drive for that opening touchdown where Hurts, Tush pushed it in, or brotherly shoved it in the first half against the Buffalo Bills. And then things change. And whether you're a Niners fan or you're someone covering the Niners, you've got to hope that you get that lead and then can keep the pedal to the metal, because it seems like with Jalen Hurts leading this offense, as soon as he gives this team hope and shows, we figured it out. Here's a third quarter opening drive touchdown. We're only down by 4 points. It's going to be fine. The whole team rallies around him, and they all start playing better, and he elevates all of their abilities. And as we've seen the past couple of weeks, has rallied from big deficits and rallied from, terrible first half, performances.
Yeah, and we all know what this game means to the 49ers. I'm curious what it means to you, and who do you think it means more to? We saw, what's my guy, the pass rusher. He was talking a little bit. Debo was talking. Reddick, Hassan Reddick was talking a little bit about the game coming up. Debo and Trent Williams are saying, and Jesse and I was going to talk about this later, about how it's not a revenge game. That's what they said, at least. And
yeah,
Jesse and I will cover it. But what does this really mean to the Eagles, and who do you think this game means more to?
To me, it means more to the fan bases than the actual teams, right? It feels like the fan bases on Twitter are going back and forth since the NFC title game went ahead and ended. And it's, the same argument that it was a couple of months ago was, well, if we would have been healthy, we'd have beat Philadelphia. And the Eagle fans come back and say, yeah, but your defense still gave up 30 points and Brock Purdy doesn't play on defense. And it just goes back and forth. I think it matters a lot for San Francisco just to prove that they can beat Philadelphia, because I get the whole Purdy argument. And sure, Purdy stays healthy in that game. Is it a massive blowout? Probably not, but I was at that game, and it did feel like the Eagle offense was having their way, especially in that second half against that 49er defense. And so for me, San Francisco has to prove to the rest of the world, yes, we can crush Dallas. Like, we have no problem beating Dallas in a divisional round. But if we have to go to Philadelphia at the Link in January, we have to be able to beat the Eagles in order to get over this NFC title game hump. The Niners, for whatever reason, have never been able to do it, at least the past couple of years. Philadelphia fans, they just want to prove that Brock Purdy or not, the Eagles are a better team. And as an Eagle fan, as someone who covers Philadelphia, I think the Eagles are. I think that Brock Purdy has shown you, at least during the couple of games this year, that unless he has a lead, unless he has things going perfectly for him, unless all of his weapons are healthy, if he starts trailing, that passer rating is worse than the National Football League. It feels to me that the Eagle fans just want to prove NFC title game wasn't a fluke, and the 49er fans are trying to prove that, hey, we can get past Philadelphia when we play them in the NFC playoffs, not if we play them in the NFC playoffs, because regardless of who wins this game, this feels like the inevitable NFC title game matchup. I mean, it's either Eagles going to Levi Stadium or the 49ers coming to the Link in late January to decide who goes and plays the Chiefs or Ravens in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's interesting because you kind of brought up Dallas in there. And I think when the 49ers played Dallas week 5, I said Dallas has to win this game.
Yeah.
Psychologically, they need this game. There's no way that they can lose again to a team that put them out of the playoffs 2 straight years
Right.
and have confidence going on the road in the playoffs in San Francisco. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, the 49ers boat raced them. I think with the Eagles, because they've played 2 years in a row now, the 49ers won the first one. Different teams, obviously. The teams have changed a lot in 2 years. They did lose last year without their quarterback. I don't know if psychologically the 49ers need this to get over that hump. But what I will say, Thomas, is that they need that bye week. In my opinion, that bye week is so important for both of these teams. We see that Philadelphia, when you make multiple runs deep into the playoffs, and you've got a team that has a lot of star players that are 30 and older, they need that rest. They need that bye week. It was very crucial for the Eagles to get it last year, and they were able to get it and ride that to the Super Bowl. The 49ers, I believe, have ran out of steam a little bit the last couple runs that they've made. And if they have to go 12 straight weeks, let's say, after a bye week, just to get there, I don't like their chances on the road in Philadelphia. But if they can get that number 1 seed, I love their chances because that bye week, I believe, is so crucial to the 49ers. So I agree. I think this game is certainly more important for the 49ers.
Well, it's not just the fact that you get the bye week, you get the time off, which Philadelphia used for Lane Johnson and Jalen Hurts last year, as you just mentioned. It's the ability to not play the third best team in the NFC. And we're going to see by the end of this season, is it Dallas? Is it the Detroit Lions? 4 weeks ago, I would have said Detroit. Now I would say Dallas, but you don't have to play them, right? Philadelphia will either play the Dallas Cowboys in the divisional round, or the Niners will play the Dallas Cowboys in the divisional round. And you're looking right now, if you're the 1 seed in the NFC, you're playing what? The Falcons, you're playing the Seahawks, you're playing the Saints, maybe the Vikings. Like it feels like a cakewalk. And you think back to last year, Philadelphia, and I was at the divisional round game. It was against the New York Giants, and the Giants had just beaten the Vikings, and it was like, ooh, maybe Daniel Jones is good. But we all went, wait a second, Daniel Jones isn't that good. Like, they should get crushed by the Eagles, and the Eagles rolled them. I mean, the game was over by halftime, and you could seemingly rest your players, as the Eagles did eventually in that game, and then focus in on the 49ers. You basically have to win one tough game, and you're in the Super Bowl. Now, both the games are at home, but that first game should be pretty easy, depending on who you play. And then you have the one, tough one against the Niners, who have just come off of a big game against either Dallas or Detroit. And so that bye week is going to be crucial. And the same goes for the AFC. I mean, if you have to go to Arrowhead if you're Lamar, versus make Patrick Mahomes go on the road for the first time in his career in the playoffs, go to M&T Bank Stadium, it's a complete game changer. And so while the Eagles win last week, I'm sure Niner fans were frustrated about that because Buffalo almost had us and you could have really, set up a chance for the Niners to take the 1 seed after a win this coming Sunday. If the Niners win, all they got to do is hope that Philadelphia fumbles on the road against the Cowboys the following week, which they've struggled historically the past couple of years. And the Niners could be in that 1 seed and, like you said, have a much higher chance of going to a Super Bowl because they at least get to play that game at home.
Yeah, most certainly. And that's the crazy thing. Philadelphia, it's interesting because coming out of the bye week, I said if the 49ers go 7-2 down the stretch out of the bye, beat Philadelphia, I think that might be enough for the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Looking at Philadelphia's schedule, since then, they've won 2 of those games that were potential losses. And now, really, the 49ers have to go undefeated, in my opinion, if they want the number 1 seed, because beating Philadelphia and losing a game is not going to work. If they lost to the Ravens 2 weeks later, Philadelphia is still likely going to get the number 1 seed. They just are. The one loss that they have, or 2 if they lose to the 49ers, I mean, that's crucial. That 3-game losing streak for the 49ers might come back to bite them in more ways than one. And hopefully it doesn't, but we will see. They need some help other than just beating Philadelphia. It's not in their hands the way it is for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. If Philly wins on Sunday, and then they beat Dallas the following week. The 1 seed is virtually locked because the Eagles finish up the final 4 games, Seattle, and then they played the Giants, and then the Cardinals, and then the Giants again. And by that point, Philly could be resting people, week 16 and week 17, or week 17, week 18 against the Cardinals and the Giants. But if the Niners win, it doesn't guarantee it, but at least it makes it still a possibility, because if they don't, it's going to be really, really tough as long as Philadelphia doesn't have a hiccup against Danny DeVito or, I guess, Geno Smith.
Definitely. Well, before we get you out of here, Thomas, I got to know, what is your score prediction for this game?
I haven't thought about this yet. I normally give those on my Wednesday live show with my buddy Josh Davis.
We won't tell anybody.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it depends on weather. If it's raining, maybe it's a little more of a drag out fight. I do think that the 49er offense can move the football in this Eagle defense. I mean, most people have been able to do so, except for the Chiefs in the second half a couple of weeks ago, but Kansas City's had their troubles. I'm going to go 24-20 Philadelphia. I think it's going to stay closer. I'd be very surprised if the Eagles rout the Niners, although Eagle fans are dying for an Eagle blowout win. We basically haven't had one all year long. We struggled against the Niners, and the Cowboys came down to the wire. I mean, the last 3 weeks have all come down to the wire. So I don't think we get the blowout, but I think Philadelphia hangs on. I think the emotion is going to be very high in this game. And Brock Purdy, listen, give him credit. He's got a big chance and a big opportunity to change a lot of doubters' minds, because it feels like you're either Brock Purdy is the greatest thing since sliced bread, or Brock Purdy is a product of the Shanahan offense, and those two kind of battle each other over the course of this season. If he goes into Philadelphia and beats a 10-1 Eagles team and looks good doing it, then I think the Brock Purdy haters are going to quiet down a little bit. But if he struggles, then I guess you guys have to break that down on your show the following day.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us, man. You have great coverage over on your channel. Anybody who is in the chat, Thomas just gave us 20 minutes of his time. Make sure you go subscribe to his channel. The link is in the description. Go check him out. Thomas, good luck this week.
Thanks,
guys. Thomas.
I appreciate it. You guys do great stuff, and good luck to you guys, except for the win.
Perfect. Talk to you later, man. Bye.
See you.
Hey, that was Thomas Mott. He's good, man. He's really good. He's very polished. You can see why he was hired by Chat Sports. He knows his stuff, and he's a Philadelphia Eagles fan. We got to put up with them this week. Got to remain professional, but I want to win this game so bad, Ryan. I want to win this game so damn bad.
Yeah, it's the biggest game of the season, honestly. Probably for, I mean, I know I'm a Niners fan, so maybe this is a homer take, but I feel like it's the biggest game of the season, period. I think it's even bigger than that Chiefs-Eagles Monday night game to me, just because of what happened, how it unfolded, and all the possibilities and what could be the outcome because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got some super chats here, and sorry, I was on it. If you guys had questions for Thomas, I apologize. He really was on a tight schedule, was able to squeeze him in, and wanted to make sure that we were respectful of his time. But let's get to it. Dave says, what's up, guys? How you both doing?
So
Doing great, Dave. Thank you. Over on your channel, by the way. That's good. You're back. Full monetization. That happened a couple weeks ago. Very excited for that.
Yeah,
Jason comes through and says, Mott, young, I unsubbed when you left the channel. Ooh. So you were subbed to the Chat Sports 49ers channel and then left when Thomas... I will say, I like them. I like them both. They're both fine. But Thomas was there when the 49ers were going through the Super Bowl run, before I was making any content myself. And I definitely tuned in to Thomas quite a bit and liked the way that he covered the team, even though he's an Eagles fan, as Tommy points out here. He says, why do Eagles fans cover the Niners on Chat Sports? It's a job, man. I mean, these guys are paid to do a job. Chat Sports is like low-key kind of an ESPN for YouTube. They pay these guys to cover the team, and they're professionals. And I think they do a good job. I don't think in the way that Chat Sports, yeah. Well, Chase,
he's coming on Friday. I'm going to ask him because I'm not sure. Like, is he?
I know the answer to the question, but I'm not going to reveal it. I don't know if that's something he wants out there. I do know the answer to the question because I've asked him. But either way, the way Chat Sports does things is very different than the way that you and I do things. And it's very structured. It's very business. It's just the way it is. And they're professionals. And I think that they do a good job of getting what needs to be said without inserting any fandom or bias into the equation. So I don't have a problem with it. I think it's fine. And I think they both have done a good job.
Agreed.
Matt says Eagles back end is suspect, and they don't set an edge on the outside runs well this year, from what I've seen. Don't disagree with you. Do not disagree. But that's also how Brock Purdy got injured, and it was all over film last year, and it's all over film this year. Guys like Hassan Reddick are not asked to collapse and hold the edge on those runs. They are strictly after the quarterback. So if the 49ers run play action, you're not going to see Hassan Reddick bite on the running back. He's going straight for Brock. That is what he's doing, and he's hoping
you
he
think Kyle's
gets
really going to do that this week. Man, I would be surprised. At least early. Don't do that.
He's going to run
Kyle.
some play action. I mean, he's not going to go play action lists. I would imagine. Maybe
But
he
not on the
maybe
first
he
drive.
doesn't. No,
Don't do that again. No.
Run. Do what you should have done last year. Run the ball at guys like Hassan Reddick. Run screen passes behind him. Get him flowing upfield and try to get him to second guess, so that in the second quarter, in the second half, you can start unleashing that play action game, which Brock Purdy executes so flawlessly. It is a huge part of his game. I think it needs to be there, but how you incorporate it and when you incorporate it is extremely important. So I think all those things are going to play into this. And it was something I talked about last year going into that game. They didn't do it. They got arrogant. They did a 7-step drop. They hoped that running play action and a 7-step drop would somehow freeze Hassan Reddick. It didn't. He went straight for the quarterback, and we saw what happened. So hopefully they've wised up a little bit.
Yeah, they better have. Yes.
All right. Let's get into our topics.
Cool.
And I've missed these the last couple of weeks, but Brock Purdy's stat update. Every week you go through and you update his stats and how he's doing in trend versus the rest of the league. Is he trending up or is he trending down in a specific statistic for himself based off the prior week? What does that look like this week?
Yeah, let's go over that. And then I got a couple of things I want to ask you in regards to that kind of are related to this. So first thing, Brock Purdy's numbers after week 12, he remains in the exact same place with completions and attempts. He's 22nd in completions, 25th in attempts. Completion percentage stays in first place. All three of those things stayed the same in relation to other quarterbacks. He dropped a little bit in yards down to 2,871. He stayed the same with his average, yards per completion. Yards per game dropped a little bit, obviously. So did the yards total. His long stayed the same, 76, fourth place. Passing touchdowns, he's tied for 7th, stayed in that same place. His interception was down just a little bit. I think it was 8th, and now it's 10th with his 6th interception, his first pick 6. Sacked 9th, went down just a little bit there with 21 sacks. He's tied for 7th in sacks for losses, which went up a little bit, so improved a little bit there. That's actually the only number that went up this week. They either stayed the same or went down. And then QBR and passer rating, he is still on top of the NFL, stayed first. He's trending 4,437 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. That's what he's trending. If he continues at this pace, that's what his numbers will be this season.
Good season, especially for year 2, man. Can't sneeze at that. That's a good season.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And a couple of things that made me also that I dove into a little deeper. Last year people were so mad because I called him dink and dunk. Well, last year Brock Purdy was only throwing past 10 yards 30% of the time. I looked at his numbers this year. He's doing it 38% of the time. So this is a different Brock Purdy than we're used to. And it's really surprising seeing him come off of a UCL injury and now he's throwing the ball downfield more often. That's not something I really expected. And I wanted to get your take on that, but also your take on this. Think about how bold that move was for Kyle Shanahan. It seemed like a mistake to me to go all in on Brock Purdy coming off a UCL injury, to trade Trey Lance away, to call him the real deal. I'm like, is this dude nuts? But so far, man, it's paying off, and Kyle made the right decision. So I want to give props to Kyle. Doesn't mean that that's going to be the right decision in the long term, right? There's still things to be seen. Like, how is Brock Purdy going to end up becoming, right? He's doing great so far. It's possible that changes. I'm hopeful it doesn't. And also, like, what happens to Trey down the line. But I wanted to get your take on all of this information I just laid out.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the I'll go backwards. The dink and dunk thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I get this comment all the time when Brock Purdy has a good game. I mean, I must see it 10 times in a post-game show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's not dink and dunk now, is he? I never said he was dink and dunk. right?
Mhm.
That was a Ryan thing. And Ryan has stood by that. He's talked through that. And I think his definition of dink and dunk, I understood it. But those were not words that came out of my mouth. So stop conflating content creators, okay? Also, I will say this. Throwing downfield is not a product of arm strength. Somebody posted a clip of CJ Stroud throwing 70 yards this past week, which
Yeah.
what the hell? Like that's
Right.
insane in itself. But a comment below that, somebody said, "Yeah, I always knew he had a stronger arm than Anthony Richardson." Like, hold on a second. Okay. Very impressive throw. I had CJ Stroud as the number one quarterback coming out this draft. I thought it
So
was
did I.
extremely clear, right?
Yeah, me too.
I never had an issue with his arm strength. I didn't think it would ever be an issue. I didn't think it was elite, but I thought it was plus, is the way that I ranked it. Plus arm strength, but not elite. But to say he has a more powerful arm or a stronger arm, to me, all quarterbacks can throw downfield. Now, not 70 yards. That's absolutely stupid. But 40 yards, 35 yards, 45 yards, all quarterbacks in the NFL can make that throw. You can go to most local high school games and watch that throw being attempted every week. They can make that throw. Arm strength comes in when you've got to throw cross field 25, 30 yards into a tight window and you got to put it on a laser. That is arm strength. Okay. My question with Brock Purdy was never, oh, can he throw a deep ball? That's more a product of the offense and what is open for him and what's not. I knew that that could be something that he could gain. The arm issue or arm strength hasn't really been an issue. I mean, he's shown he can make all the throws, but throwing downfield doesn't constitute arm strength. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. That's not, those are
Not
two
40
different
yards. Not 40
Yeah,
yards at least,
they-
right? 70 yards. Now that's different.
70
Yeah.
yards, that's something different, right?
Yeah.
But even then, I wouldn't say, okay, CJ Stroud has an elite arm because he can throw 70. Yeah, he has a elite distance, but he's not throwing cross field the way that Mahomes or Allen off platform, falling backwards. Like that's just not who he is. He's still on pace to be a very good quarterback. And I thought that that would be the case, but that doesn't mean he also has to have the strongest arm. Those things don't compute for me. So anyways, the next question that you asked about was the Trey Lance. Moving on from Trey Lance, how ballsy was that? It was the right move. It was the right move. Ryan, you and I had a show this offseason and we talked about advice for Brock Purdy. And throughout that show, we started to insert our advice for the 49ers as well. And one thing that I called out then, this was in March, I think, March or May. I said, if the 49ers believe that Brock Purdy is their quarterback, they have to move on from Trey Lance. That is the right move. It is a gutsy move. It doesn't make it less gutsy coming off of an injury, but it's the right move. Because when you feel like you have a franchise quarterback, whether I agree with it or not, that is irrelevant. None of that matters. If you feel that in your heart as an organization, you have to remove all roadblocks. The way that the Patriots did for Mac Jones. Now, that hasn't panned out for them. Mac Jones clearly is not that guy, but they removed Cam Newton from the equation because they didn't want the distraction. It wasn't fair to who they thought could be their franchise quarterback. The same way the 49ers should have done that for Trey Lance and removing Jimmy Garoppolo. I called for them to do that for Brock Purdy and remove Trey Lance if they believe Brock Purdy's the guy. If they didn't believe he's the guy, then you have to keep Trey Lance around. The moment they made that trade, they told us exactly what their thoughts were. They do believe he's a franchise guy. Now, will he be? I don't know. I have my opinions on that. I've made those clear, but that's irrelevant. They believe he is. And if they believe he is, removing Trey Lance was the absolute right move. It was ballsy, but I applaud it. Yes.
Yeah, I don't disagree that when you feel like you have your franchise quarterback, you need to go all in and remove the distraction. So I don't disagree with that at all. I just think, man, how bold is it to do that for a guy that's coming off a UCL injury? Like, how do you know how his arm is going to be when all is said and done? Yeah, you got a little bit of it in, July and August in training camp. But really, like, just the longevity of that arm injury and assuming that he was going to be the same quarterback he was in the previous year, that's bold, man. Kyle saw something in Brock Purdy. He called him the real deal, and he went all in on him. So I got to give him credit for that. Whether or not Trey ends up being a good quarterback or not is irrelevant. Or even, we'll see what happens with Brock. But I just think it was very bold of Kyle Shanahan to be that aggressive and make that decision.
It was bold, but it was the right move then, and it's the right move now. It absolutely is the right move. It just was. I mean, you can't develop two young guys together.
Think
If
about
you
if Trey
believe that
Lance was
Brock
on the
Purdy,
team
yeah,
during the
you
three
just
game losing streak, it would have been bad. Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
you just can't develop two young guys together. That doesn't make sense in the NFL. You've got to choose one, and they chose Brock Purdy, and right now that move is paying off big time for them. What does
Mhm.
it do long term? I don't know, but that's
Yeah.
really irrelevant. They're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. If he was healthy, Brock Purdy at that stage was better than Trey Lance. He just was. Long
Can I ask you
term,
another question?
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but I want to ask you another question related to that. This question has nothing to do with Brock Purdy, but we've seen
Okay.
Mac Jones, we've seen Justin Field, we've seen Zach Wilson, we've seen them play. Are you convinced that they're better than Trey Lance at this point?
No, I actually had this conversation. My time is bleeding together because of the vacation. But
Mhm.
I had this conversation with Larry, I believe, Larry and Vish, maybe a couple weeks ago. No, absolutely not. No,
Yeah.
What from their play has convinced you that they're any good? That doesn't mean that Trey Lance is good or better, but it's
We just
the
haven't seen
unknown.
it.
You just
Yeah.
have no idea still, and you've got two guys that have proven they're not good. One guy who still shows flashes in Justin Fields, but
Mhm.
boy, has he had a lot of chances to put it together, and
Yeah.
kind of has at times, but kind of hasn't at others. I still don't know what to make of Justin Fields, and that's a guy who's played what does he have, 30 starts at this point? I still don't know
Wow.
on Justin Fields. So
That
why
game was
would I know on
horrible,
a
by
guy
the
who
way,
has
last
3
night.
starts? You know
Did
what I
you watch
mean?
that game last night?
No, I couldn't.
Oh my
I couldn't
gosh,
stomach
dude.
that game.
That was the most dink and speak of dink and dunk. That was the most dink and dunk ass game I ever seen in my life. I'm like, what is this? I think he threw like an astronomical amount of passes behind the line of scrimmage. It was just hard to watch, like really tough. Yeah.
Well, and Dobbs threw 4 interceptions or it's like, oh my
And they
gosh,
still
dude,
almost
what the
won.
heck?
Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah, the Bears are bad. The Bears are just a bad team. They
Yeah.
are. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They just are.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this game with the Eagles. What we are hearing is, first of all, let's actually go back before I get into what
Yeah.
we're hearing. Let me lay out the whole offseason and what went into that. The 49ers lose to the Eagles. Brock Purdy gets injured. They obviously go to Johnson, who also gets injured. We know the history there. 49er fans believe, hey, if Brock Purdy plays, we win that game. Okay, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But the players really believe, hey, if Brock was in there, we win that game. If we have a healthy quarterback, we win that game. We want our get back. So much so that for the next couple weeks through the Super Bowl, they were talking about it into the offseason. Guys like mainly Debo. Debo was like the head of the whole thing.
Mhm.
Then you get right, I think it was right before the season or right as the season started, he goes on a radio show. He's promoting whatever his product is that he's promoting. And the host ends up being an Eagles fan and starts asking him about the Eagles and does he still feel as cocky as he did then and all these things. And Debo gets very frustrated with the conversation. I mean, deservedly so. I understood why he was frustrated with it. The guy asked the question multiple times. Debo was like, listen, I'm not trying to talk about that. But he kept poking and poking. And eventually Debo got off the phone. His publicist took the phone and he hung up. That was it.
Yeah.
Now we are here. We are in Eagles week. Hassan Reddick comes out and says, hey, you guys think you were the better team? Come to the link and prove it. Because I think you guys were crying. That's what I think. You guys were boo-hooing all off season. Now you got a chance to prove it. Come shut our mouths.
Talk is cheap.
Talk is cheap, right? Yeah. Debo, Ayuk, and Trent Williams are all asked about it. And all of them act as if nothing ever happened in the offseason, as if nothing was ever said from the 49ers side of the house or the Eagles side of the house, that this is just a normal everyday
Just another
game.
game.
It's this game is no different than when they played the Bengals in week 8. It's just another game.
Mm.
Do you believe that that's the mentality inside the locker room, or is that just something that they're trying to portray outwardly?
Hell no, I don't believe that. Excuse my language. Absolutely not. That's
Me
so
neither.
That's so BS, man. What it sounds like to me is either PR or Kyle Shannon or somebody got to him and said, "Hey, let's just treat this as another game. Let's not respond. Let's not talk that talk, right?" Because they're all on the same page with the message. But do I believe that they think it's just another game? Absolutely not. There's so much riding on this game. For one, it's all about the seeding for the playoffs. Two, it's for the history that you just laid out. I mean, this is the game that knocked Brock Purdy out and put him in the surgery room. That it could have ended really badly for Brock Purdy, right? Are you telling me that Brock Purdy's not looking at this like, come on now? He's under center looking at Hassan Reddick, the guy who injured his elbow, and Debo's thinking about all the words that were said about him and this team, and Trent Williams after throwing the guy down and getting, a personal foul at the end of the game. Come on, absolutely not. They're going into Philadelphia. This is 100% a revenge game for these 49ers, whether they tell you that or not. I promise you, they want this game more than any game this year.
Yeah, and I don't mind the approach. Whether they talk or they don't, the game's going to be played. I don't mind the approach either way, but I don't buy it at all. I absolutely don't buy it, because even in a slight moment, Debo said, "Oh, I'm not taking anything back," and Ayuk said, "I'm not taking anything back." So they meant what they said. Debo, especially, I think this is a game that Debo has to play very, very well. Not only for them to win, but because of everything he said, the way that he talked about Bradbury. I mean, he made it sound like Bradbury doesn't even belong in the league, the way he talked about him.
Yeah.
So he better come through and play well. Win or lose, if Debo doesn't play well, Debo, come on, man. This is your game. You've been waiting for this all season long. I expect that Debo plays very well. I think that he's one of those guys that just backs up what he says. The way that he has against the Rams for all these years, I think now the Eagles are also that team where they play, whether it's every other year, every 4 years, whatever. Every time Debo sees the Eagles, he's going to be turned up for that game because of what happened last year. And I also agree. One guy who hasn't said anything is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has an axe to grind. Brock Purdy feels in his heart, I'm sure, that if he was there, that they win that game. And Brock Purdy has now heard the first shot fired from the same man that injured him last year. Yeah, this game means a lot to Brock Purdy as well. It absolutely does.
Yeah, these are human beings. I like that they're trying to stay focused, and
sure.
the message that was conveyed to them, obviously by somebody within the organization, is don't get into the talk. Let's focus on the game. It's just another game, and that's the mentality they're trying to have. The reality is that's not the case for any of these guys. They want to go out there and prove that they're the king of the NFC. Right now, the reality is the Eagles are the king of the NFC based on what happened last year and their record this year. So the 49ers want to prove that it's them that deserve to be the king of the NFC, and they got to do it this Sunday because talk is cheap. And now don't get it twisted. Now the Eagles complained and whined and cried a lot about the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, so they're just as guilty as that as the Niners were after that NFC Championship game. But right now, this is the week, man. Can't wait for this game because on Sunday the words don't matter anymore, and I guarantee you this game's going to be chippy. Now, if this game's chippy, that also tells you that the message they're giving out right now is BS. Because if it's chippy from the get-go, that means it's personal for these guys, and I expect it will be.
I love that it is. I want it to be. I don't. To me, that makes this game more fun when I know that I was having this conversation with Coach. We talk pretty frequently. We were having this conversation yesterday. The NFL with the 17th week at times is starting to feel a little bit NBA-ish or MLB-ish, where certain games may not mean as much to really, really good teams. So once you start to figure out the landscape of the league, week 5, week 6, you start to see that some of these teams maybe aren't giving everything week in and week out. Or at least that's the perception that we took away. When you have a game like this on the schedule at this time, this game means not only so much for seeding, placement in the NFC, home field advantage, all those things. Those things matter. You're going to get up for a game like that no matter what. But when you add in the element that one team beat the other one in this same field to go to the Super Bowl and the way that it ended, oh, I love it. This is must-watch TV. And the fact that it's not a primetime game is an absolute shame on the NFL. I'm pretty sure I know they can flex games into Sunday night. I think starting last week, they had changed a rule going into this year, and starting last week, they could flex games into Monday night. How this game isn't getting flexed into a primetime game is beyond me at this point.
Here's a better question: why does it even have to be like? Why wasn't it scheduled as a primetime game from the beginning?
Exactly.
Yeah,
they missed the ball on this one. On this one.
Huge.
GTC Real says no Eagles linebacker can keep up with 85 or 23. Not many linebackers in the league can do this, GTC Reels, and that's the way that Shanahan has built this roster. He did it from the very beginning, going in, getting Juszczyk and drafting Kittle. It was clear that the way Shanahan views the league is there are not many good linebackers and not many good linebacker tandems, and he's right about that. Mm-hmm. That is how he looks to attack, and he's done so with Jimmy Garoppolo, with Brock Purdy, with everybody he's had attacking the middle of the field where linebackers are, with guys like 85 and 23 and 44 and whoever. So yes, absolutely. I agree with this. They don't have those linebackers whatsoever. Justin says, we actually ran to the right last week. Can we keep it going? And will we stay in the backup role? Spencer stay in a backup role. Okay. Sorry, I had to piece that one together. Oh man, he should. He should.
Yeah.
I don't know that he will. I have a feeling they'll do the rotation thing because they're trying to develop him, I guess. But
in this game, especially, like, let Burford get another week. Let him take a week off, another week off. Leave Feliciano in there. This game, especially, they need him. They're playing around too much, and when it comes to this season, right? You're either all in or you're not. So, are you focused on developing Burford for the future, or are you focused on winning a Super Bowl this year? If you're focused on winning a Super Bowl this year, Feliciano is your guy. Zero question.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. They can't play Burford in this game unless somebody goes down and he's healthy.
Right.
Matt says, can we talk about how BA has been? 40 out of 45 receptions have gone for first downs. Elite. Yeah, it's something like 89% of his catches have gone for either a touchdown or a first down.
That guy's nuts, man.
Absolutely insane.
Having a great season. One of the top, I would say, top 5 seasons for a 49ers receiver, which is crazy to think because the Jerry Rice being on the 49ers for so many years, Terrell Owens, but I mean, it's at least top 10 season for 49ers receivers for Brandon Ayuk. He's balling out as far as yards are concerned and average per reception. Maybe not touchdowns, but that's not his fault. I mean, he's been targeted 4 times in the red zone.
The touchdowns are there now because he's gotten 1 in each of the last 3 games, I believe, coming off the bye. So now he's at 5. Yeah. He's right where he needs to be. So the whole touchdown thing isn't a topic of conversation anymore. He's just always open, man. He's always watching the game. Obviously we see it on TV. We see how open he gets. You watch all 22. You see how open he gets. There were times throughout the game when I was at the Tampa game a week and a half ago or whatever, that I would just focus in on a player for a play, not the play as a whole, and just kind of see how things were going. He just stays open all game long.
Yeah.
Nobody can hang with him. And the Eagles are not going to be any different. Thomas said it, the stats show it, the Eagles can be passed on. And I think barring torrential downpour, if the game looks like it did last week, weather-wise, I worry a little bit about the 49ers being able to pass with consistency. Josh Allen was able to do it. Hurts was able to do it. But Hurts plays in that weather pretty frequently, and Josh Allen is, I mean, he's one
They
of
got
one with
to,
that
man.
arm, you know?
I mean, the Eagles are 31st in passing touchdowns given up. They got to. One other thing, real quick on Ayuk, since we're talking about him, I want to look it up because I'm thinking in my head, all those 20+ yard passes that Brock Purdy's completing, I would wager 95% of them are to Brandon Ayuk. I can think of the Kittle one, right? The Kittle going deep down the sideline. Outside of that, I really can't think of another one. I think they're
He had a Kittle touchdown as well against Dallas, I think. That was 20
right.
plus that I can remember.
That's two. I think 95% of them are to BA, and a lot of them are on those deep crossers. They're wide the hell open. And
No,
so
those deep digs are always open. I mean, BA is always open on a deep dig. They can run it out of any formation anytime, and he's always open. But I expect, barring torrential downpour, that this 49ers team will be able to move the ball very well through the air. I don't see it being much different than the way that they've diced up a lot of these teams. I think Brock can play very good. I think BA has a good game. I think that it's an advantage. We'll talk about more advantages in a minute, but that's definitely one of them. Matt says, Eagles cried after the Super Bowl. Slippery field. Yeah, they did. They definitely did. And it was so funny to watch that happen, the way that they talked, because I actually agreed with what they were saying, Eagles fans, which was, hey, don't bitch about it. The outcome's the outcome. And I agreed. It's for a day or so, I was, hey, this sucks. And if we had, maybe we could have and whatever. But about 24 hours after that game, I'm like, listen, the better team just won. It is what it is. We'll move on to next year. Couldn't keep a quarterback healthy. Just stop. They won. They should have won, and they're moving on. It's over. Like, nothing's going to change that fact. So I agreed with that, and I said that. But then I couldn't help myself after the Super Bowl when the Eagles lost. I wasn't celebrating the fact that the Eagles lost. I know a lot of people were. That's just not. I don't care. We didn't beat them. I'm not going to root for another team to beat them. I don't care.
Right.
But when they started bitching about refs in the field and this and that, I couldn't help myself. I'm like, you guys said, and you were right when you said, don't bitch about this game anymore. Move on. Yeah. Now it's your turn. All that issue you guys talked about moving on and not bitching, walk the walk. It's easy to say that when you win, but walk the walk when you lose. And they couldn't do it.
I feel that way every week. I hate excuses. I don't like when fans are like, oh, but the refs, like, who cares? Win anyways, right? Excuses. Who cares about your excuse? I want results. Win the game. I don't care about the refs. I don't care about any of that.
The only people that care are the fan bases of that team. Bases of teams that weren't involved, they don't care. Players don't care. I mean, it's just, it's not a thing. Like, you either won or you lost. That's the way that it worked out. 49er Jeff, Brock Purdy won't be a problem. I agree. I'm worried about Kyle's play calling. Honestly, he has to call a good one. Let's go Niners. Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to how Brock Purdy got injured. I think that's what you're probably alluding to. I know that that's what you had talked about. So I think that lingers. I also think that he's probably smartened up a little bit.
I hope so.
Justin says, who lays out the biggest hit of the game and on who?
Trey Greenlaw.
Greenlaw's,
Trey Greenlaw for sure. I don't know. On who would it be? Swift? I don't know. It's not going to be Hurts. Nowadays quarterbacks really don't get touched. So Greenlaw on somebody. I doubt it's Hurts though, because you really can't hit quarterbacks like that, and Hurts is going to go down.
I could see Fred catching Gainwell is pretty small. I could see him being in on a third down. They dump it off to him, and Fred just gets the perfect ramp up and levels him. So I'm gonna go. It's gonna be on Gainwell, and I'll go Fred Warner. But Greenlaw is, the logical choice.
Right.
If Jimmy Ward was around, I'd probably go with him. Daza says, would be great for us to beat the Eagles as long as they don't get on a 3-game losing streak like after the Cowboys game. Yeah, beating the Eagles doesn't mean much if they don't get the number 1 seed. I mean, that's really what this comes down to. Thomas talked about it early in the show, and I did disagree with him then, and I disagree now. To me, this is not about, oh my gosh, can the 49ers beat the Eagles? Even if they lose this game, I think that they can beat the Eagles. I think they believe they can beat the Eagles. I don't think that there's this major psychological advantage, much like there is with the 49ers against the Cowboys, or maybe the 49ers, the Chiefs have a psychological advantage over the 49ers. They haven't beaten them in the Shanahan era. They're what, 0-4? So that one I understand. This one, the 49ers beat them 2 years ago. The 49ers lost to them last year without their quarterback. So losing this game is not going to be the psychological destroyer that it could be for other teams in other situations. But the number 1 seed is that important. So even if they win this game, but they lose to Baltimore and they don't get the number 1 seed, or lose to whoever and don't get the number 1 seed, it doesn't matter, because it's all about getting the number 1 seed. That, to me, is more important than the psychological side of beating Philadelphia this week. That's just me personally.
I just don't think it's that realistic to think the 49ers can get the number 1 seed. I just don't think that's going to happen. So to me, what matters most is beating these Eagles when it matters most, which is in the playoffs, regardless of what seed the 49ers are. So yes, I want a revenge game just for the sake of beating the Eagles and what happened last year. But really, this game, win or lose, I'm still not sure we're going to get the 1 seed. So really what matters to me is in the playoffs. I want to beat these Eagles in the playoffs. That's really what matters to me.
Yeah, beating them in the playoffs for sure. Why don't you think number 1 seed's possible? They are behind the 8 ball. They feasibly probably have to go undefeated, right?
Yeah.
So they're not in a position where they can lose a game. They do have to go undefeated, and they have to hope that the Eagles lose one more. So do you think it's more so on their end that they can't go undefeated, or more so that you just don't see the Eagles losing another game after losing to the 49ers?
Well, I think I saw the odds are less than like 10%. So is it possible? Sure. Yeah. Is it likely? No, I don't really think I see it happening. Are the 49ers going to win out for the rest of the year? Maybe. I think this Eagles game is going to be tough. I'm still like 51, 60%, maybe something between the 51 and 60% Niners. I feel like Niners are going to pull it off somehow, but it's going to be close. And then the Ravens, you're going against Lamar Jackson, who's what, 19-1 against NFC teams. So and not only that, man, like we look at the Ravens and we look at the Eagles as possible tough opponents and games that the 49ers could lose. But I mean, did we think they were going to lose to the Vikings? Did we think they were going to lose to the Browns? Did we think they were going to lose to the Bengals necessarily? I'm not sure I did. So there's always these games, man, any given Sunday where a team just comes out of nowhere and wins, like, and you don't expect it to. So to expect the 49ers to go on to win the next 6 games, and I just
really,
don't
that'd
see
put them
it.
on a 9-game win streak, right? Because they
Yeah.
haven't lost after the bye. So to go 9-0 after the bye with some of those games and 4 in-division games, that would be extremely impressive. I think they can do it.
It's possible.
It's possible, but it's going to be very, very difficult. And then again, the Eagles have lost 1 game all year. You're going to expect that they lose 2 in a row after, lose to us and then lose to Dallas? Maybe. I mean, that's going to be a tough game, but the odds are low, even if they beat Philadelphia. But at least you're giving yourself a chance. If you lose to Philly, it's over. So that's why this game to me is more important, is for that number 1 seeding. If you got any chance, you have to win this game. SF Gold Rush says, here's $2. Appreciate you, SF Gold Rush. And Matthew Sanders says, serious question. How does Hurts survive 10 collisions a game? Dude, I don't. The guy's a power lifter. Yeah. He knows how to take hits. He's used to it. I don't know, man. What's interesting is when you watch him and he's got a DB one-on-one, sometimes those DBs are the ones that are like, do I want to hit him? Or do I just want to try to grab his ankle and bring him down? Some players in the league, when they're heads up with him that are, DBs, safeties, some of the smaller guys, they're actually unwilling to go heads up with him. He's got power. He runs with power, especially for a quarterback. He's not a small guy. He's shorter in stature, but he is thick with juices. Yeah.
Can I say I like Hurts a lot, but I don't like quarterbacks that run that much and take that many collisions. Not because I don't like them, because I just don't think. I think you're
It's
testing
not sustainable.
your push. It's not sustainable, but like
I agree.
it's dangerous, man. I don't like that style. I didn't like when Kyle did that with Trey. I don't like. I wouldn't go all in and build a franchise around a quarterback that's doing that because I feel like it's dangerous.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Completely fair. He says, has Brock started against the Chiefs? This is a way different team than 2017. I don't think any team can say that they own Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy led 49ers. No, I mean, he played minimal snaps in that blowout loss.
It
He
wasn't
threw an
it's not the
interception in that
offense
game,
though. It's not the
but
offense that's the problem.
he
It's
hasn't
the
started against them.
defense. It's the defense containing Mahomes. That was the problem last year.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
the 49ers. Let's not forget that in 2019, the 49ers were scoring 30 points a game, 29.9 points a game. This offense was a juggernaut then, too. They actually, through 3 quarters, did very well. It's Patrick frickin' Mahomes, and against this defense is exactly the problem. It's not Brock Purdy. It's not a Brock Purdy issue. It's a can they stop Patrick Mahomes issue. And I get that their offense doesn't look great, and I don't buy it. When I talked about it being the NBA, the Chiefs are a team in particular that I look at. I'm like, I'm sure they're struggling a little bit, but I also feel like they know what it is. They know when it's time to turn up. This is a team that has been to 3 Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. This is a team that's won 2 Super Bowls. They know when to coast and when to turn it on. That's a team that when they get to the playoffs, I don't expect their offense to look anything like it's looked all season. People will be like, oh my God, how did this happen? How's Patrick Mahomes all of a sudden doing this? And they're scoring 30 a game and their defense is still really good. I just don't buy it. I don't. The Chiefs still scare the hell out of me. The Ravens do as well, but more in a regular season sense because of Lamar Jackson in a 1-game sense. If they were to play the Ravens in the Super Bowl after seeing them in the regular season, I would feel pretty good about that matchup because seeing Lamar a second time in a season, the stats show that if you see him once and that's it, you're probably going to lose. But if you see him multiple times, teams start to figure that out a little bit and you kind of know what to prepare for. I'm not saying it would be easy, but I would feel better about that game. If they have to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I don't feel confident about that at all. At all. I have zero confidence in that game.
I got a hot take for you, Jesse. Yeah. I think the Ravens are gonna get to the Super Bowl.
I think they might too.
Yeah, I really think they might be the hot team that just catches fire at the end of the season. And I mean, they're already doing really well, and that defense looks really, really good. And Lamar Jackson is so dynamic. I could see the Ravens making it all the way.
Well, the conspiracy theorist, I don't know if you saw this one. I saw it on a YouTube short. Said that the Super Bowl symbol for the last 4 years has had the team colors for the 2 opposing teams. And this year, based off of that, it's the Baltimore Ravens versus the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. So
rematch.
Conspiracy theorists say it's true. I think that's going to be the Super Bowl too. I'll go with it. Why not?
Yeah, we'll find out if Kyle's better than Jim. If he can beat John.
It's true.
Hey, there it is.
It's true. There you go. Go be that. Wouldn't that be? Man, that would be some poetic justice, huh?
Who does your son go for, though, bro? That's the question.
He'll go for the Ravens. 100% he's going for the Ravens. He's a Ravens fan. Yeah, we're going to watch the game on Christmas together, and he's going to be rooting for the Ravens. That's just the way it is.
What's funny is I remember my dad was a Bengals fan, and I was a Niners fan. So you guys would be doing the same thing if that Super Bowl comes up. You'd be, your son rooting against your team like I was against my dad's team back in the day.
It is what it is, man. He's a Ravens fan. Thank you to Madden and Jimmy Garoppolo for that one, I guess. All right. We had one more topic. I'm going to hold it for later. I have a show tonight with Sunil. I'll bring that one over tonight. I got to get running. Ryan, good show. Way to round it out. You and I, it was fun having Thomas on. If you guys came in late and didn't see Thomas, the Eagles fan, he used to cover the 49ers for Chat Sports. Go check out the beginning of the show. It was a good one. He had a lot of good little nuggets in there. Starting to feel out a little bit how healthy this Eagles team is going to be. And I think that's going to play big into this game. Go check that out. Definitely some good conversation there. Everybody in the chat, appreciate you. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything on the way out. There's one right there. Mike says, this Eagles game will tell me a lot about Kyle's ability to win the big game. Let's go Niners. Hey, I'm here for it. Spoiler alert, I think the 49ers are going to win this game. I haven't given a score prediction yet. I'll do that tomorrow behind enemy lines, but I'm thought the 49ers would win this game before week 1. I'm going to stick with that. I think that they are the healthier team. I think as good as the Eagles have been, they are a little bit hotter than the Eagles. And I think this game is more important than them. So I think they're going to win. I'll give a score prediction tomorrow. I will be back tonight with Sunil. Tap in at Last Second Sports then. Also, make sure you're subscribed to Ryan's channel.
Just hit 6K, baby. Just hit 6K.
Just hit 6K. There you go, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's a big milestone. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. We'll see you tonight. Peace.